Hi everyone, and welcome back to another live stream. So if you are new here, sorry, I'm just getting my apron on. If you are new here, welcome. If you are watching the live stream, make sure to leave a comment down below. Say hi, where are you from, who are you painting with? And then if you are painting the replay, make sure to check down below because there will be resources for you as well as timestamps for you to skip ahead if you don't want to join us for the welcome chat or anything like that. So yeah, welcome however you're joining us. Hi Micah. Good to hear from you. So I'm excited for this class. I mean, I feel like I say that every single time because I'm always excited to paint. But hi Rebecca. But yeah, I picked this one specifically because I feel like a lot of times we do oceans from like the sand looking out and like the horizon, and I feel like there's not a lot of classes where it's like top down, and so I thought this was a really cool vantage point because it's not necessarily something that we see every day. Maybe if you're like flying over the beach, but yeah, so I thought this was a really cool class, so I'm excited for this one. I hope you are too. Hello everyone, welcome in. Just make sure all my settings are good. Make sure everyone can hear me. I want to get my paints out. Let's see. I'm excited to use some of these colors. So I have the Hippie Crafter, like I think it's 20 colors, and some of these colors that we're using today I have not used yet, so I'm excited to use them. So there's this really pretty like aqua, it's called Viridian, but it's like a really pretty deep blue green. It looks way more faded, it looks way more blue in the camera. It's a lot more green, but I'll be using that. And then let's see, I have my brown, my white, probably use some yellow. Although if you have like a tan, or like beach color, you could just use that. You don't have to use browns. But a lot of people don't have like this Hippie Crafter one comes with champagne, which I really like to use for skin tone, like a base for skin tones. I could use that for my sand color, but sometimes I like teaching it, since a lot of people might not know how to make sand color and they might not have that champagne color. I'm interested on how you're going to paint the Aloha part. I mean, it's pretty much just writing. You can really do it however you want. I think I looked at the picture and I didn't notice this until one of my patrons pointed it out, because they were trying to figure out how to put a person in the picture. If you zoom in on the picture, the exclamation mark is actually like a person. If you zoom in really far, it's actually a person. I will not be putting person in mine. I'm just gonna be writing Aloha, but you could also write whatever you wanted. So let's see, what other colors? Let's see. Let me go. I don't actually have the picture up, so I can't like see what I'm doing. Yeah. Let's see, brown. We have blue, sort of. I'll probably use, I don't really have a teal. I mean, I have this one, but there's not really that color. I have this lake blue, but I don't think I'm going to use that. I might just lighten up my phthalo blue. We'll see. I might add this for darkening the bottom. I think one of the cool things about something like this is you're getting the basics of the colors, but it doesn't have to be exact. It's really however you want to do it. Yeah, but let me know. This is a great space space to ask questions. If you've never painted before, or if you just have questions in general, now's the time to ask them. I am all yours for the next, I don't know, 18 minutes and 36 seconds, or however long it is. Where's my water? Yeah, I have a traceable for this one, but I probably won't be using it. It's pretty simple. I feel like even if you're a beginner, you would be okay without the traceable. But it is available for anybody who wants to have the traceable. That's available in my Patreon. So if you're wanting that, or you don't want to write the Aloha part, you could trace that, but I think it'll be fine. Hello for everyone just joining us. I know some people are just coming in. Say hello. Where are you from? Who are you painting with? Or maybe how long have you painted? I know that for this class specifically, I was just like, I want to paint something beachy because it's getting warm and we're spending more time at the beach lately. So my son loves the beach. He always talks about the beach. Although lately he's been talking about how bright it is at the beach, like the sun. He's like, it's so bright. I'm like, well, yeah. That's what happens when you go to the beach. I'm gonna take a quick picture so we can post it. Yeah, so if you have any questions, let me know. Hello from Apollo. Finally get to paint live. Hi, Paulette. Good to see you. Oh, good to see me. Good to hear from you. That's always a weird thing, because it's like, I know you're here, but I can't see you. But hello, welcome. At least now I know what you look like. I can picture you. Paulette's one of my patrons, so I got to meet her last month. Let's see. It's awkward. Yeah. Just gonna post it on Instagram and say, hey, I'm live, come say hi. How are you doing, Paulette? I know there was a lot of people who mentioned they wanted to come to the art and chat, and then they didn't come. There's a couple of people there, but I got my hair cut really short. Oh, so now the Paulette that I am picturing is not the Paulette that you actually are, because you have shorter hair now. You'll just have to come on next week or next month, and then I'll be able to refresh the picture I have in my head. It looks different. Yeah. I don't know. My hair is like getting to the point where it's just hot. So now I'm like putting it up more. Although, like, if it was shorter, then I feel like I wouldn't have to put it up, or I wouldn't be able to put it up. Because I don't think I'd look good in like a pixie. Nah. I mean, maybe. I don't think I've ever gotten like a pixie cut before. I don't think so. Let's see. Say hi. Keep it long. You can do more with. Yeah, before I cut it to this, it was like down to here, and it was too long to do anything with it. Like, I would just put it up all the time. Like, that was the go-to, like, because it took too long to do anything with it, so I just didn't do anything with it, and it just went up in a bun every day. But you know, when you have kids and you're constantly bending over picking up toys and doing dishes and doing things like, you gotta get out of your face. So I think I'm just in that stage of life where it's just like I want it up and out of my face. Dawn, hi Dawn. First time joining, excited to do this. Yay! Is this your first time joining a live class in general, or is this your first time with me? I always like to know, because I don't know, it's just kind of fun. It's fun to know these things. Let's see. First time ever. Have you done, is this your first time acrylic painting, or have you painted before? Have you done like in-person classes or anything like that? Or is this your first, just flat out first time painting ever? Because that would be fun. For anyone who is here and doesn't know, I have an artist community. I think it's, let's see, where am I? Over here. Yeah, okay. Let's see. Do I have it over there? Actually don't have it over there. When I get to the next section scene, I'll have information down there, but I can also post it in here. It is my Facebook group, and it's where you can post all your work that you're working on from my classes or my Patreon or anything like that related to my stuff. You can post your work and you can share it with others in the community. So if you're not a part of that, definitely go check that out. That's on Facebook. It's just Facebook/groups/SamanthaAndersonArtist. And yeah, join the community over there. Ange says, hello from Michigan. Had to work late, just going to watch. I'm sad I didn't have time to get supplies. Oh, that's okay. This class will stay available forever on my YouTube, provided YouTube doesn't, be weird and take it down for some reason. Yeah, it'll be available for you to watch afterwards. So you can watch now and kind of just hang out with us, and then you can always watch it later. And I've done 2 in-person classes where you bring alcohol and they turn out pretty good. Awesome. Yeah, I used to do it. I've done a couple at wineries, but I think my favorite place that I've taught is I used to teach bi-weekly at a coffee shop. It's a local coffee shop named Brew Coffee Spot in La Mesa, California, and it was just such a lovely, quaint little place. And I think like the largest class I could do was like 14. I could maybe squeeze 16. If it was a class where it was upright like this one, if it was landscape, then I would have to cap it at 14 just because you can't fit in that much space. But I loved doing it at coffee shops because then like kids could come and teenagers could come, and it was just very much a family outing, and it was always so much fun. But if I ever did something at like wineries and things, I could definitely have like a much bigger class, which was also fun. But I've really been enjoying doing things online lately, just because it's like in the comfort of my own home. I don't really have any like mass setup and cleanup that I have to do because everybody has their own supplies. And then also I get to paint from people from Michigan and people from all over the world, and like New York, and it's just fun. So I get to meet everybody. We usually have like a ton of people from Canada in here. I'm surprised we haven't had anyone from Canada yet. Or maybe we have, you just haven't spoken up. You're all being quiet. Let's see, I'll get the rest of my supplies out. Let me know if you have any questions on supplies. I pretty much already have my paints out. Essentially, you need something for the sand, something for the water, and white. The watercolors can be a mix of greens and blues or turquoises. And then for the sand, if you have a sand color, for sure you can use that. I'm gonna be teaching how to make a sand color because I know a lot of people that might not be something they have on hand. I know in most kits, if you've bought a kit in the past, you'll probably have like a champagne or a sand color, or if you have a like burnt sienna or like burnt umber, you could like mix those together with white. So there's a couple different options. Honestly, as long as you have the primary colors, you can make a sand color because that's how you make brown, and then you whiten it up. Hello from Miami. Ooh, what's the weather like in Miami? Hi from Texas. Hello. It is. I was a little late coming on because I was like trying to get as much air conditioning in this room as I could, because obviously I can't have it on when I'm teaching because it's so loud. But this is the only room that we have air conditioning in, so I'm just like getting as much cold air as I can because it's in San Diego. It's we've been going through some heat waves, let me tell you. And yeah, we've been having fans constantly going. Rest in peace, electricity bill. After I paint this, I'm just gonna want to go to the beach. I just know it. Also, if you haven't liked my Facebook page, go ahead and do that. It should be down below this video, probably at the very bottom. I have like all my links, but I think I need help choosing what to put on the wall. So I finally finished organizing this cupboard with like all of my work related things instead of just random college books that I'll never read. So I finally did that, and so now I want to kind of extend the art wall, and I have to figure out what paintings I'm going to put up. So I might need help with that. So if you're not either in the community or on my Facebook page, make sure to go like those so you can help me, because I need help. And I'm not really doing any studio vlogs at the moment, so I can't like reach out to my YouTube family and ask them for questions or ask them for help, because being pregnant, it takes up a lot of time. Sleeping mostly, but hello everyone, welcome in. I know a couple more people have joined. Alright, so we have about 5.5 minutes left. I'm gonna go ahead and get out my brushes. Let's see, what am I gonna need for this? Let's see. Whatever. I will also go over supplies once we like start. But I'm gonna be using my big filbert brush, and then I feel like for most of this, there's a couple different options that we can go. We can use a palette knife for this one if you want, like down near the bottom. There's a couple like cool like techniques that we can use while like the paint is still wet. I may or may not do that, because I didn't necessarily put it on the list because I wasn't planning on teaching a palette knife class, but it might be fun to do that for anyone wanting to. And there's also, if you have a sponge, you can put on some of the sponging, like the white with that. You can also add white speckles with a toothbrush. So there's a lot of different opportunities to use some extra tools during this class. Hi Lisa and Josephine, hello. I was just kind of briefly going over supplies and things that you could use. Let's see. I'll probably for the most part just be using my big filbert brush and a tiny brush. And then I'm honestly really tempted to use a palette knife for the bottom. But if not, a lot of people have that, I'll use it, and I'll also give another option of a different way of doing the same type of technique. Hello, Scarlett. Oh, Scarlett. No, Lynn. Hello, Lynn. Now I recognize your YouTube name. Hello, Lynn. So is Lynn your middle name? And Scarlett's your first name, and you just go by Lynn Anderson? Because in that case, we would have the same middle and last name. And first initial. That'd be funny. Filbert brush, yeah. So a filbert brush it's a flat brush that is rounded. It's kind of oval at the top. And yeah. I typically like to use filbert brushes for the background. If I'm not using like a mop brush or anything like that, I like to use filberts rather than a flat brush that has corners, because I feel like it has less like lines when like blending and things like that. I feel like it just blends better. But that's my opinion. That's just what I've done and what I've grown accustomed to over the years. Because I used to just use a flat brush, and then after using a filbert brush a few times, I was like, wait, this is better. And then it's my first name. Scarlett is my daughter's middle name, and there were too many Lynns when I registered. Oh, all right, makes sense. Hello from Maryland. Hello, Sharon. Alright, we are just about to get started. We have about a minute left, so just gonna wait a little bit longer for people to arrive. Hello, Sherry. And then we will go over supplies and announcements. And then we also have our Patreon giveaway, which I forgot to set up this spinny wheel thing, so it'll just be, it'll be random. Let's see. Alright, let's go ahead and get started. Alright, hi everyone, welcome to class. If you weren't with us for the last 25-30 minutes, we were just kind of chatting and going over just some supplies and things like that. I will go ahead and go over all of the supplies right now. So get your supplies out and we will get going. So the first thing we're going to do is go over our paints. So for our paints, I will be using Hippie Crafter acrylics, but you can really use whatever brand you would like. The colors I will be using, these don't have to be exact, because honestly, the ocean comes in many colors, the sand comes in many colors, so if you don't use the same exact colors that I use, that is totally fine, but I will be giving that out. So I'm going to be using Phthalo Blue, Viridian, or you could use a different type of teal. I will be using white, and that's really just all for the ocean. And then for the sand, now I was explaining during our art and chat that if you have a champagne or a sand color, by all means you can use that. But I am going to be teaching you how to make a sand color, because I know that a lot of artists, or if you haven't bought like a kit or anything like that, you might not have that color and you might not know how to make sand. Or that like sandy or even skin color, like that type of thing. So I will be going over that. If you have a brown, that'll be helpful to start off with, and then you can tint it from there. If you do not have a brown, like a burnt umber or a raw umber, you can make your brown from your primary colors. Either ultramarine blue or phthalo blue, whichever one, a medium yellow, and then a red. Mine is specifically scarlet. I have medium yellow, and then I'll be using phthalo blue. So if you have those 3 colors, which every kit, and you should have your primary colors, because they make up most of the colors that you would be using, you can make your brown. So we will be doing that for our sand. For the canvas, I will be using an 11 by 14 canvas. It's just a stretch canvas, so it does have sides, tops, and bottom. So if you do have a stretch canvas, remember to paint the sides so you can just hang it right on your wall and you don't have to worry about framing it. All of these are wrapped with the paint, so I didn't have to frame them before putting them on the wall. You have your water, paper towel, and then your brushes. I will, for the most part, be using my filbert brush for the background. And then I have a liner brush. If you don't have a liner brush, that's okay. Sometimes it's just easier to get all those little streaks and things like that. But if you just have a small brush, that'll work. And then I will probably also be using just like a medium-sized small brush, or I mean a medium-sized round brush. So just depending on what you have, use what you have. And if you have any questions during the class, make sure to raise a hand, put in a comment, and let me know what your question is, okay? As for extra tools, these are not necessarily supplies listed below, as I didn't intend to necessarily use them. I wanted to give the option to use them, but they're not necessary for the class, so I didn't want someone to not join the class because they didn't have a sponge or a palette knife or a toothbrush or whatever. But these are fun supplies that I would encourage every artist to have on hand for their classes and things like that. So I have an old toothbrush. This was my son's old toothbrush. As you can tell, it is very frayed, and that's actually a really good thing. I really wanted that. So obviously it's been, washed and cleaned, and I've been using it as an art brush for a while. But what's nice about using a toothbrush versus just like flicking a normal brush is that these are very bendable, and they're not very stiff. So sometimes it's really hard to get that flick that you want in a splatter, versus a toothbrush. The bristles are very, very stiff. So it's very, very easy to get your flick and your stars and your splatter and whatever you're using it for with a toothbrush. So that's one of the fun things that we can use. A palette knife. If you do not have a palette knife, that's totally fine. I think I'm going to use a palette knife for this one down here, where it's kind of reflecting almost in panels. If you have a palette knife, that's totally fine. You can use that. If not, you can use a just a brush, but you'll probably have to do like a dry brush or something like that to kind of get the same effect. I kind of picture the bottom to be a little bit more, not abstract, but a little bit more rough and less, it's a different vantage point. So just bear that in mind, keep that in mind when we're doing this. And then the last thing that you can use, you don't have to use this, but is a sponge. Now, there is a lot of white up here, so sometimes to get just the basics of that white, it's nice to have something that's a little bit, maybe covers a little bit more ground. So I might use a sponge for this. Now this is an art sponge, so it's round, it's squishy, It's not too stiff. It's different than the sponge daubers. So the sponge daubers I have here, which I've used in the past, they have corners on them. They are round and they have corners on them. So I would not suggest that because you don't necessarily want a bunch of, you know, circles on your beach. You'll want something that, like, if you see this, it's got round, so it would be much better to use. Anyways, I think that's it. You have your water, paper towel, your palette, whatever you want to use. And I think that's all for the supplies. For just a few announcements before we get started, if you are not a patron, I do have a Patreon where you can support me. You can tip me down below, or you can join my Patreon where I have extra classes. I have traceables for all of my live classes, including this one. I'm not using a traceable for this one, but I do have it available if you are uncomfortable writing the Aloha, or you need help on the shape of the waves or anything like that. I do have traceables for every single live class that I've ever done available in there. And then I have like extra classes and polls and fun stuff, as well as the Patron giveaway. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. I don't have the thing set up that I did last time because I forgot to set that up. But I do have a name that I drew earlier, and it is Diana Hubbard. So Diana, if you're watching, you will be receiving the paint kit. I have it over here somewhere. Let me see. You will be receiving a paint kit. So it is 12 acrylic paints. You can use this for yourself, or you can use this for a gift for someone else who maybe is just starting out or anything like that. So this will be sent to you. Thank you so much for your support and for everyone who supported this month. It's growing into a lovely community, and I really appreciate everyone who is there supporting me. And then lastly, with Patreon, we painted this. So if you are a coffee lover, then you'll definitely want to head on over there to paint that, because that is a Patreon only class. And that's available to the $7 tier and up. So that's all the classes. And if you join, you do have access to every single class that I've ever painted in that tier, for the $7 tier. So that's pretty cool. I think that's all of the announcements. Yeah. Let's see. Let me answer some questions before we get started. Is there an alternative to a sponge? I don't have any. Honestly, you don't have to use a sponge. I'll be going over other things that you could use, as well as the sponge, but you don't have to use the sponge. It's just an option. If anything is like, I'm using a sponge and I'm only using a sponge and that's how I'm teaching a certain technique, I will put it in the description of like, yes, you need a sponge for this class. But it's not necessary for this class. So it's just there for if you need it or if you would like to use it. Oh, hi Linda. Thanks for coming and stopping by. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. I believe that is everything. All right, so we have our brushes and our extra tools that we may or may not use. If you've never painted in acrylics, one thing I will say is that when we are doing the background, we want to work a little bit quick. So acrylics tend to dry a little bit faster. So if you've ever worked with like oils, it's definitely not oils. It's acrylics. It dries fast. So I'm gonna go ahead and get out my blues and make my sand. So we're gonna do all of our colors beforehand, so that when we are doing the background, because most of the colors on here is the background. So this should be a fairly quick class. At least the background and getting on the colors. You could spend as much time as you want on the water itself, So that's really where all the detail is gonna be, because the background is really just gonna be one fell swoop, and then we're gonna have all of our color, our sand, and our water, and it's just gonna be like, I feel like I'm already done, but then we'll have all the white to do. So the first thing we're gonna do is make our sand color. So if you have a sand color, please bear with us. I really wanna teach how to make these colors. So if you do not have brown, get out your primary colors and you're going to mix those together to make a brown. I'm going to be using my burnt umber, which is essentially your 3 primary colors mixed together. Now this is a good base for a tan. You are going to need your white, and then you may or may not need your yellow, blue, or red to be able to tint it in a color that in a direction that you want. So let me go ahead and get my white out. I think I finally have come to the end of my Hippie Crafter white because I've been using them nonstop since I got them. But I feel like for me, who paints at least once a week, they've lasted a pretty good amount of time, to say the least. So I'm just gonna put a ton of white on here because I know that there's gonna be a lot of white in there's gonna be a lot of white in the sand, and then there's also a lot of white in like the top of the waves. So I'm gonna wait to put this. This is just a Hobby Lobby brand. It's just Master's Touch, but all right. So if you're not used to, let's see, what am I? Oh, I was gonna say, if you're not used to mixing with a palette knife, if you have a flat palette, for instance, mine is it's just a flat tile. Mixing a large amount of colors with your palette knife is really helpful. So I'm just going to take a bunch of this and mix it in with this brown and see where it comes out. Alright, so I can tell already that I'm going to need a ton more white and not as much brown. So I took some of this brown and just moved it over because I don't need to change the color of all that. Alright, now I can tell that this brown that I have with just the white and just the brown is very cool, and it's almost like blue. So I'm going to not only add more white, but I'm also going to add just a touch of yellow and red. Or of course, if you have like, an orange, you could do that, but I like to use colors. So I'm just gonna add a little dab of yellow and the tiniest dab of red. Now if you had like a warmer brown that you were using, like a burnt sienna, that already has that really warm, tint to it, so you probably wouldn't need to do this. This is just specifically for the color of brown that I used, which was burnt umber. Alright, now I think this is a little bit too warm, so I'm going to grab some of this brown and a little bit more white. And you're just going to keep mixing until you get the color of tan that you want. I think this is pretty pretty good. I think it's a little bit too dark for what I want it to. So I'm just gonna leave it, and I'll probably, here, I'm gonna mix another section of this if it will go my way. I'm gonna mix another section of this with just my white. Try to get a little bit of a lighter tint. And when you're mixing colors, I generally go by it's better to have too much paint than it is not enough, because when you're mixing paint, if you run out when you're doing something as big as the background, then you'll end up having to pause what you're doing, remix the paint, and then when you go back to put it on the canvas, what you've done has already dried, and it's gonna be a lot harder to get a good blend. If you have raw umber, yeah, that's totally fine. That is a lot darker, so use it like even so the amount of brown that I used was a lot. Just put a touch. It's sand is mostly white with a little bit of these other colors. I started with the brown and I should have started with the white, but that's fine because I did want to have a good amount of it. And as you can see, there's like different kind of shades of sand in the sand itself because it goes up and down and it hits light differently. So if you have different like shades of it, that's totally fine. But yeah, if you are using a darker brown, you'll just have to add that much more white, and then maybe a little bit more of your yellow and your red to make it a little bit warmer. Alright, now I get to use some of this gorgeous verdian green. Oh my gosh, look at that. It's so pretty. You can't really see it on the camera, but it is so pretty. I wish you could see it on the camera. Is it just because it's small? Let me make it bigger. Oh, now you can see it. Well, that doesn't work. Here, I'll just move it over. Whatever. Alright, this is such a pretty color. But we are going to make a middle ground. So I'm going to take some of this verdian color that I have, and I'm going to mix it with my in-between color. So let's see, I'm going to mix it with a little bit of this lighter and a little bit of the darker, just so I have something in the middle, and I'm going to mix it. It's going to turn into like an awful kind of brownish green. It's actually not that bad. Now you could just do this all on the canvas, which I've done a number of times, but sometimes it's really cool to be able to, this will actually help in mixing. If you have troubles mixing on the canvas and blending on the canvas, mixing these colors ahead of time will really help. So I have this. I think I'm going to mix just a little bit more, just so I have more of it. And then I'm going to do one more mixing with a little bit less of the greenish blue and a little bit more of the tan. Video's out of focus. This video? You might want to check, everything right now is HD for me, so you might want to check the video settings on your YouTube and make sure that it is the highest it can go. If you have a low network, sometimes the default is a lower, like it's like a 480 or 720 or something like that. You'll want to make sure that it's 1080. Hopefully that'll help. Let me know if that helps, because it should be, I don't know, it's in focus for me. So, is it out of focus for anybody else? Alright. Now, out of context of what we're painting, this is the ugliest color I've ever made. It's like this grayish green brown tan. Dawn, yes to what? That it is out of focus or it's not out of focus? Still on sand. What did I miss with the verde? I was essentially, so you have your sand colors. Can't even read the words on the bottom. Okay. Mike, if you're listening, can you help her? There should be like a, goodness. Let's see. Maybe make sure my thing is all the way down. There should be a little, settings, like gear, that you can click on, and that will bring up a little thing and you can press the quality. It's usually at 480. Just put it at the highest that it goes. I hope that helps. In focus for me. Okay. Yeah, it might just be hers specifically, or hers. Okay, so with the green or the teal, whichever color you're using, you can use either teal or green. Mine's like a really rich, dark, like teal green. I feel like it'll go perfectly with this. Essentially, you want to have colors that go in between the different colors. So you have at the top of the canvas, you're gonna have your tan. Okay. You're gonna have your tan, and then as you move down, and once you hit the water, you're gonna start going into that blue. So we're just, instead of doing it on the canvas, because sometimes it creates harsh lines when we don't have those colors to work in, we are creating those colors. So I have my light tan that's going to go at the very top, a little bit of a darker tan, and then I have my tan that's going into some of the green, a little bit more of the green, and then the pure green. So that's essentially, so you're just making like a ombre of these colors, so that when we're painting on here, it'll be a lot easier to blend them. Because like I said, sometimes when you're blending colors, if you've ever struggled with painting backgrounds and blending, doing this will definitely help that process. So I will attempt not to move on until the majority of you do have these colors, so that I don't leave people behind. Let me know where you're at and if you have these 4 to 5 colors. You don't have to have all these colors, but I feel like the more you have, the easier it is going to be to blend it. And we can always add variances of it, like you can add white in some places as we go along. So don't feel too caught up on getting the color exact. It's just whatever green color you're using, whatever tan color you're using, just slowly mix some of those together, and you'll create the in-betweens. Okay, Okay, good to go. Perfect. All right, so some of you are good to go. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Because I think it would be cool to use a palette knife on the very bottom, at least I enjoy using a palette knife and I might do that. I will show a different way of doing that if you would like to add kind of that same effect. I will let you know and I'll do it for you. But we're gonna start with the top first and then work our way down. Notice that the blue doesn't really kick in until about the last third to a quarter of the painting. However, this little middle section is that like mixture that we created here of like the kind of tannish green color and the not so green color. So that's what we are going to be attempting for today. So go ahead and grab your filbert brush. If you have a stretched canvas, make sure that you do the top and the sides as you're working your way down so you don't forget about them later. And let's just dive in. So get your water on your brush, dab it off so it's not completely saturated with water, and let's just go in. For this first coat, or just for the top coat, I am going in to my water a couple times just to make sure that it all moves on the canvas fairly easy. But once I get going, I won't be using as much water. So at this point, I can go in with some of this white and kind of go back and forth between the dark tan that I have and the light tan that I have, because there are different kind of colors in the sand. Just know that the more water you have on your brush, the more translucent it's going to be, which means see-through, and you'll be able to see your brush strokes a lot more. So just keep that in mind to try not to use too much water when doing this. And you're just gonna move down. Yay! I'm so glad. So you'll notice that a lot of the times I will put paint on my canvas, and I'll do a lot of like short little motions to really get it in all those grooves, and then I'll come back and do some long strokes over the whole thing to blend it all in to the thing as a whole. I do feel like I need a little bit more white. Just kind of getting in the habit of doing very long strokes will help in any sort of blending opportunity. And then if it's really not blending in, just try to grab just the tiniest bit of water, mix it into your paint, and then try to add a little bit more paint. Get the paint on there, then I go in really big long strokes to blend it all in. And at this point, this is really where it starts to lighten up a little bit. And it starts to add in some of these kind of greenish colors. So I'm just going to start adding that first tannish green color. And go in a little bit more with that green color. Blending it up, but not blending it up too much. So each time I'm putting on more of this color, I'm really only blending it into the last thing that I painted. So let's say I just painted this section right here. When I put this on, I'm really only painting it in and blending it into that section. And I need to rinse out my brush real fast because I didn't finish out this tan part before I moved on to the green. Alright, so then I'm going to go into a little bit more of this blue-green and blending it into that color up here. I'm just going to keep working your way down. And now I'm going to go into just that very pretty blue-green color. And there was even a dark kind of section right here with a wave, so I can put that in because I know it's going to be there. A general rule of thumb is that if let's see, what was I going to say? Sorry, pregnancy brain. I had something. Oh, I was going to say that a general rule of thumb is that when you're blending, the more you go over something, the more it's going to blend. So that's why in like abstract paintings, you don't really want to go over something too much, because if you do, then it's going to be blended really well. In abstract paintings, things typically aren't really blended very much. So at this point, I'm really just going over with that really dark green verdine color that I have. And at the very, very bottom, I'm mixing my Viridian Green with just a tiny bit of my Phthalo Blue. Just at the very bottom. I'm mixing it before I put it on the canvas, just to give a tint of blue, a little bit more blue than is on here in that green. And one of the reasons why I'm using my Phthalo Blue versus my versus like a ultramarine blue is because Phthalo Blue typically has that kind of green tint to it anyways. So it works very well with this color. And there we have it. Now I'm just going to, while this is still wet, I'm just going to kind of, with this darker color, put in some texture down here at the bottom. Just with this like darker greenish blue color. I'm just kind of dabbing my brush on it. Just to the very, very bottom. I'm going to rinse out my brush. And let me change my camera setting real fast because this is a lot darker on camera than it is in person. So let me just try to lighten this up real fast so it's a little bit more true. That's a little bit better. Okay. That is more true to what it looks like. Hopefully that's better and you can see all the details. Alright, now with a palette knife, if you wanted to do this, you could grab some white. And for the most part, we're really only going to be working with white for almost the rest of this class. I'm going to use a small palette knife, if you're wondering. I'm using my number 1 Conda. It's one of the kits that I have in my Amazon shop, which can be found Amazon/shop/SamanthaAndersonArtist. I have all my recommended supplies there. When I add the texture to the white, comes out too much. Wait, when I add the texture, the white comes out too much. What does that mean? I add the texture. What texture? Of the things in the bottom? It might be because you had too much water on your brush. Like the white canvas comes out. Yeah, it might be because you had too much, you might have had too much water, or sometimes if you're, yeah, I would say you probably had too much water. I'll just get some more paint, or if it already started drying, if the paint on the canvas artist already started drying and you try to put more paint on it, sometimes that'll take the paint off. So there's like a weird, like if it's not dry, but it's not wet, and it's like tacky, you want to just leave it until it's dry and then come back to it. But I would just go over it with some thicker paint, let it dry. It's not like a necessary step. It's just, you can always add texture on top of it later. We're like, most of this class is adding texture in different, there's a bug, is adding that different textures. So right now I'm kind of just playing with the palette knife and seeing if I want to use it more, or if I want to teach it. Which I always like using a palette knife, and I feel like it has some fun textures to it. So I'm just using a palette knife right now, which is not a necessary thing. You could also use I think I'm going to use a filbert brush, like a smaller filbert brush. Grab some of this, and we're gonna start adding some of our waves. So what I'm gonna do, you can either do what I just did, or you can ignore it for right now, because I'm gonna teach something else. Because I like using the palette knife, but I don't know if it necessarily gave the right, I don't know, thing that I was expecting. I still like it. I don't want to change it, but okay, so now you're just gonna start slowly putting in. I'm gonna be using a filbert brush. The first thing we're gonna do, and we want to do this in layers. So what I mean is by doing layers is you're gonna add a little bit of water to your white. And you're gonna figure out where you want your waves, okay? So there's a couple different waves that come in here. There's one that kind of comes down here, and they can, honestly, they do not have to be this shape. And I'm just gonna kind of pull down in different directions, just so there's not just like a plain line here. So you can go to the side, go straight down, go to the other side, make crosses. And we can always come back and add more to this. Don't feel like you need to add every single detail right now. We're just getting in the main shape of everything. So I'm just going to do the same thing here. There's barely anything on my brush when I'm doing these kind of strokes down. There's enough that you can see it, but there's not enough that it's like overwhelming. Again, we're gonna add a ton of layers on this, so you can always come back and add white to the very, very edge of this. Which we will. So then I have like the main waves that touch the beachfront. Now I'm gonna add some of the waves that are kind of in the middle of here. Obviously there's this one. And then there's another one that's like right here. This one's a little bit harder to see because it's like in the midst of all the white. Alright, so at this point, there's a couple different options that you can go for. You can just continue doing these techniques of just putting in white where you know that there's a lot of white, which is essentially at the beginning of each one of these waves, and then work your way down, and you can continue doing that through the whole thing. There's also another option that you can do, which I will show you here. If you have a sponge and you would like to use it, you can get your sponge, you can pinch it like this, and you can get just a little bit of paint. Like that, where it's not like a lot, but to the touch, it kind of gives like a, I don't know, like a spotty, is what I would call it. And it gives a pretty smooth, even texture to everything where your white is. I would recommend this really only where, like at the top of your waves, where it's a little bit more saturated with that paint. Will this be available later? Yes, all my live classes are available as a replay. The one thing you do have to make sure is that once you are done with your sponge, you do need to rinse it out immediately. You don't have to wash it, but at least rinse it out so that it's, you know, fairly moist, so that the paint does not dry in it. Because once it dries in the sponge, it's pretty much unusable. It's really important that you rinse that out, and then you can wash it out with soap and water after you're done. Okay, so I'm gonna go back in with just the very tips of this where I want it to really stand out. Now you don't want to cover up all of the sand. You do want to make sure that you can still see that sand and that color through the waves. That is important, because obviously water is see-through and you will be able to see through it. So now I'm just gonna focus on giving all of, it's like creating all of the little details in a leaf. It's tedious, but once you do it, it's gonna look amazing and detailed. Now theoretically, like, I could stop here and it would be like, okay, cool. You know, I got waves. I got waves in here, and it's fine. But I mean, for goodness sake, we still have an hour left of this class. So you could really spend as much time on this as you want. Now I am going to put a little bit of a darker hue. So this is almost, I think this is a breaking wave right here. Let's see. This one right here, it's a breaking wave, which is why it's a little bit clunkier than the other waves. So with that in mind, it's gonna have a little bit of a darker edge down here. So I'm gonna go ahead with this dark, my dark green, and give it a little bit of a shadow underneath here. I did that a little bit in the beginning, but I kind of covered it up. Just using a little bit of water to help blend it in a little bit. See how that gives it a little bit of like a, like you can see it from above, like it's coming over it. And that's the point. I'm going to rinse out all my brushes except for the one that I plan to use, which is going to be my my medium round brush. This one. And I'm just going to take my time in my white paint. And I'm just going to put in all these details. So the details, you know, that I either see or that I feel like are fine. So I'm just, honestly, I'm just making a lot of squigglies that kind of connect all to each other. And again, it's a tedious work, but it'll look really cool once you get everything in there. And if you have the time, then you might as well. Know that not every line has to be perfect, and none of them are going to be perfect, but as a whole, it'll look good. And if you have like a specific line, you're like, oh, I don't like that line, just know that it'll get lost in the midst of all the other lines. A tip for doing something like this is to have a good amount of water in your mixture, almost like a liquid foundation, I like to call it, because that'll really help with all your really fine lines. And it'll go on your canvas a whole lot easier. Let me know if anybody has any questions so far. And this is the part where if you are not comfortable using a larger brush like this to do really small lines and you have a liner brush, absolutely use it. You can totally switch your brush. You don't have to use the same brush that I'm using. I just find that there are a couple bigger spots in here that you can get like the majority of your lines done, which is helpful. So you can use your bigger brush for that, but if you need to switch to a smaller brush, you can, by all means. This would be a really good time if you are looking at your canvas and you're like this close to it and you're like, oh, I don't even know what it looks like. Take a couple feet back, take a couple steps back and look at it from afar, and I guarantee it'll look better. And you're like, oh, it actually doesn't look bad. Sometimes when we're looking at things so close up all the time, it can be really intimidated and we can see all of our imperfections and it's just like chaotic and we can like give up really, really easily. That's why when we come back a few days later, we're like, oh, actually it doesn't look as bad as I thought it would. Or as I like, what was I thinking? It doesn't look that bad. So I encourage you, take a step back. I have the luxury of not only looking at it, you know, a foot away, but also on my camera, which is like on my computer, which is what this is seeing. And it's like, I feel like it's more like, I don't know, I'm seeing from it like maybe 4 or 5 feet back. So I have like a bird's eye view and then also like a really close view. So sometimes I'll look at my painting and be like, does that look right? Does that look right? And I'll be able to look at my screen, be like, oh, it looks really nice from 5 feet and I don't have to get up. But for those of you who are not, you know, teaching and have a screen to look at of your work, take a step back, look at it from a few feet, even a few feet away. I guarantee it'll look a lot different and you'll be able to see things different. Like, oh, I need a little bit more white there or a little bit more green there, or however that may work. I hope you guys don't mind my silence. There's not a lot to teach. If you guys have any questions, just let me know, okay? Like I said, it's a pretty tedious, just repetitive. And I'll definitely chime in if I have anything that's like related to what we're doing. Or we could literally talk about the weather. I know some people don't like the chit chat, so, but if you have something you want to chat about, let me know. My pregnancy's going good, in case anybody was wondering. I am 27 weeks. Well, I will be 27 weeks on Wednesday. Do I have any names yet? Yes, we have. We picked her name already. Her name is going to be Amelia Joy Anderson. I almost was like, wait, that's her middle name, right? But yeah, she's a girl. She's due on September, so technically 30th, but the first appointment I had, they changed it to 29th, and then they changed it back. I don't know. So it's the 30th, end of September. But it will affect my live classes. They will be pre-recorded premiere classes. I will still have, you know, live-ish classes that everyone can join at the same time and paint together. But it'll be a little bit. You'll probably get a little bit more of a taste of what my Patreon classes are like, because it'll be pre-recorded, but you'll all still be able to interact, and I'll probably be online around the same time so I can answer questions via like chat, but I just won't be answering questions live because it'll be a pre-recording, because I kind of want to, you know, spend time with my family, and I'll have a newborn at that time. So so I think I'll have 3 premiere classes, 2 in September and then 1 in October. I'm an old OB delivery nurse. I'm wondering how things were going. I'm doing well. Yeah, very pretty, Amelia. Yeah, we're spelling it with I think we're spelling it Amelia. Amelia, that's an interesting way of spelling it. I've never seen it that way. Me and my husband's birthday is, both of your birthdays on the 30th. That's funny. Is the left one photo or painting? The one on your right, so over there, is the reference, and the one on the left is what I'm painting. You can tell I've spent a good deal right here and not as much attention over here. I'm working my way over. actually love your sweater. Thank you. I think it's probably because I've left a little bit of, because I think I also like mine better. And it's because you can see the waves a little bit more. Because there's not as much foam going on everywhere. And I've left a little bit of sand. Like I haven't brought all the foam all the way down all the time. So you can see a little bit more. But I'm liking mine. I hope you guys are liking yours, because that's the point of this, right? Have fun and come out with a painting that you like. And even if you don't come out with a painting you like, you've probably learned a lot of techniques. At least that's the hope. And if you haven't learned techniques, why aren't you asking questions? Just kidding. Who else has September birthdays? Because my birthday is in October 4th, which is very close to September 30th, so I'm like hoping that she's not late. Not that I wouldn't like, to have the same birthday as my child. It's more that, I don't know. I feel like having them separate by like, even if it's 5 days, but like separate by a month or whatever. Oh, your birthday's in September, mine's in October. Like, she would feel, I don't know. Although as a kid, I feel like it'd be fun to have a birthday that was the same as your parents. I don't know, maybe when you're younger, but not when you're a teenager. Double birthday party with your mom. I would totally do that as a teenager, and she would hate it. I'm just kidding. I probably wouldn't do that. But me and my son, my birthday every 2 weeks. And wait, my birthday every 2 weeks until Thanksgiving? As in you celebrate your birthday every 2 weeks until Thanksgiving? I don't understand. My husband comes from a very large family, and so before COVID we would literally have a birthday party for everybody in the month on a certain day of the month. Like, and when I say large family, I mean like he's the oldest of 12 kids, and now we have like 8 or 9 grandchildren between like all of us. So there's just a lot of birthdays. So we would have like, so I think there's 3 October birthdays, which is me, my sister-in-law, and my mother-in-law. So we would have like a birthday party in, I think that's it. We would have a birthday party in October for like the 3 of us. And then like August, there's like a ton of birthdays and anniversaries and things like that. And it's kind of crazy, but we would just like have one birthday party for the month for everyone, and it was fun. I miss it, but life happens. We have days from 15 for every 2 weeks right up to Thanksgiving. Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, I see. Yeah, I can see that happening. Yeah, for us, August is a really busy birthday. It's a really busy birthday month. I'm trying to think of other birthday months that are busy. I just put in, January has 2 or 3. I know, there's just so many birthdays. I just recently put them all on my phone because I accidentally pushed my daughter's birthday party to one of my brother-in-law's birthday, which is fine. He's like, I don't know, he's like 16 or 17. Like, it's fine. But I was just like, I don't know if I would have done that if I would have known it was his birthday. But, so my daughter's birthday is on the 3rd, so it's this next weekend. But our church, we do like a car wash or whatever in the morning, and I was like, you know what, that would stress me out to have a car wash in the morning and then go straight to like the park and continue planning, because we're just having a small get-together with family. And I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna push it off a week. We'll do it the next weekend. We'll have it in the morning at a park. It'll be fine. But that's one of my brother-in-law's birthdays. I didn't realize that because there are a lot of birthdays and it happens. It's fine. Alright, I'm gonna get out my toothbrush and just put a little bit of splatter on the places that I feel like I'm done, because I want to see how it comes out. I like it. I don't know if you can see really the difference, but in person it looks a lot better. I enjoyed that way too much. Does anybody else really like doing the splatter effect? Look forward to doing this when I have contract surgery. Oh, cataract surgery. In July and August, I can see again. Oh, that's right. Well, I hope that goes well for you, Linda. I'm going to continue with my liner brush. I feel like with my liner brush I was able to put in a little bit, some more, was that white splatter? Yes, it was. I feel like it just added some texture. Because why not? This is the ocean. Oh, no worries, Josephine. This will still be here that you can come back to if you need to. So no worries. I completely understand. I think my kids just woke up anyways, so I will probably be heading out here fairly soon. You're welcome. And then for some of the white over here, I did feel like it was too bright. There was too much white, and the white should really only be when it's really reflective. So I went in with, I mixed some of this kind of darkish green with a little bit of the plain green and white, just to get at kind of a medium tone between the dark and the white. To kind of drown out some of that. So it's like reflective, but it's not, you know, white reflective. And that gave it, it kind of toned it down a little bit, and I think I like that better. Alright, so if you want to take a break from the waves and draw in the Aloha with me. And honestly, you could really draw this however you want. Just keep in mind that this is like from the top down and somebody kind of like walked on this. So we're gonna try to keep that element of it. So I'm gonna use a mixture of like this darker brown I kind of had and the darker tan. And I will have to make this so that I can see it, make sure that it's in the middle. So I apologize if you can't like see what I'm doing. But that's fairly in the middle. It's okay if it's not totally in the middle. But now I'm gonna go back in with my brush, and I'm kind of just gonna dab. In those areas. I'm not gonna cover up the whole thing in these dabs because I kind of want some of that lighter. Because these are like footprints, so it's okay if they're like, it's not like one solid written line. Like that. And if you look very, very close in this picture, you'll notice that the exclamation mark is actually a person, like in it. I'm deciding not to put the person in there, but if you want to, you can. But yeah, that's okay. You can go back to your, your painting of the waves, or if you're done or if you're not done, however that is working out for you. might be done. I'm not totally sure yet. I feel like they just look different, so I'm just trying to take elements of the, whenever we're painting a real picture like we are now, we have to remind ourselves, like even I have to remind myself, that it's not going to look exactly like the picture and that that's okay. I feel like too often we're like, oh, it doesn't look like the picture. Well, if you go in with the mindset that it's not going to look like the picture and you get to like make your decisions, and like I like how my waves look more than the actual picture. Like if I would have gotten too caught up on like, oh, it doesn't look like the picture, then I might not have made those decisions and I might not have liked them better, you know. So I think it's important to make that distinction early on and be okay with it looking different. But with that, it does look different, and I'm trying to figure out if I'm done or not. I think I'm gonna put a couple more definitive lines, because you'll notice that like I have a bunch of lines in here. Like look at all of these lines, but they're not as bright white as like these. So I think I'm gonna go over this with some of these like more definitive lines in certain places, just to bring out some of that, to bring it out a little bit. And I think that'll add just the right touch to it. Yep, I think I'm done. I like it. Alright, well, just before I leave, I do want to thank everyone for joining me tonight, or in the morning, depending on where you are. Thank you so much for joining me and painting along with me. I do have a Patreon where you can get access to Patreon only content and other classes. You can also help me. I do polls in there where you can help me choose what to paint as well. And then I have my artist community on Facebook. It's a Facebook group, as well as my Facebook page, where you can get access to just essentially classes and events that I will do. And then if you're not subscribed to my channel, please like and subscribe. It really does help other people find these events and get access to these free classes. So make sure to subscribe, like, you can hit that bell notification if you want to get notified of when I am live. If you're planning on joining me for a class, I know that that's helpful for some people. But otherwise, I hope you all have a wonderful night, and I'll paint with you soon again. Bye, everyone.